Alex Hormozi is making hundreds of millions of dollars from his YouTube channel, and the crazy part is he's teaching everyone else how to do the same thing, which sounds amazing until you realize you have hundreds of hours of content to study if you want to actually learn his system. So to save you the time, I spent the past month diving deep into Alex Hormozi's YouTube strategy, and in this video, I'm going to break it down into 6 simple steps that anyone can follow. This way you know exactly how it works and how you can even use it for yourself. Now, the first thing we'll dive into is how he finds content ideas, because without a solid idea, the rest of the strategy is completely worthless.
I look at my calendar and I look at all the conversation that I had over the last week and I think, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of interesting. And guess what? When you look at real life experiences, you have examples because they're real, right? That's what we call one of zero content, which is something that only we can make. And so everybody here can make content that no one else can make by simply talking about the stuff that you've done that no one else has done.
Now, you just heard him talk about one of zero content, and this is super similar to Mr. Beast's purple cow approach. And all that means is if you see a normal cow on the side of the road, you're just gonna look at it and not even recognize that you're looking at a cow, or I don't know what you do in your free time. But essentially, if you see a purple cow, you're gonna look at the purple cow and be like, holy shit, that's a purple cow. And that's exactly what you want to do when it comes to these content ideas. Because when people see stuff that they haven't seen before, it immediately stands out. And when you could take your own experiences, that's what Hormozi is talking about. And now to find these content ideas, Alex Hormozi recommends to open up your calendar, essentially apply the one of zero filter, and just eventually turn those conversations into frameworks, but to turn it into something that's even a little bit more tactical. Essentially, the best way to go about this is to download something like Fathom or Firefly's AI. And if you don't know what those are, essentially they're just AI tools that follow you into every meeting, record the whole thing, give you summaries and transcripts. And then from there, you can do the same thing every week. You can go into your Fathom or Fireflies, you can go to the meeting history, and you can even automatically upload this stuff directly into ChatGPT. And then you can ask it what great ideas you talked about on call this week. But if you want to do that part manually, you can just apply the one of zero filter, kind of refresh in your mind what calls you were on this week. And this way you can actually just pick out the specific one and actually just throw it into ChatGPT. So to give you a specific example here, I'm going to take the transcript of this video just to show you how simple it is. So I uploaded the transcript and I'm just going to say something as simple as, what is a unique strategy we talked about in this video? And so you can see right here, we talk about the 2-step Trojan horse cold email campaign. And I knew this was something that we talked about originally. And that's something that anybody can really do. Just download Fathom, is completely free. You can go through this exact process. And I think it's a really actionable way to include your one of zero content. But here's the thing, you can have the most unique content ideas in the world, but if you don't have a title that people actually want to click on, then you're not going to get anybody watching your videos. Because if they don't know what they're gonna get from the video, how could they even be interested?
From a headlines perspective, if I were to remake these today, I might try a first crack at business influencer crushes haters and shows how you can too. Okay, so now if I'm clicking, I would understand at least that this guy is a business influencer of some sort and he crushes haters. Okay, well, I might wanna see haters get crushed. Day in the life of $200 million per year CEO. Okay. Now, the jet tells me that this Alex Hormozi from the first one before, Alex Hormozi is maybe rich or maybe he can afford a private jet, but now I know he's a CEO because I could be a rapper. I could be, more realistically, when I walk around the places that I live, all the people that in my community assume that I'm a football player. It's the number one thing. They're like, so you play football, you're on the hockey team? And I say, no, nope, nothing wrong with that, but no, that's not what I do. And then the third one there, Alex Hormozi diet, 16-hour workday, 6-pack diet for business owners, whatever. The point is that we actually make it welcoming to everyone.
So instead of having vague personal titles about yourself, Alex recommends having specific outcomes, numbers, and any sort of achievements. This tells the viewers exactly what they're gonna get, what your credibility is, and makes them way more excited to watch. And just reviewing his own examples, it's the Alex Hormozi guide to haters, business influencer crushes haters. It's just, nobody really knows who Alex Hormozi is. Same with this, they don't really know, but if I see a video that's around day in the life of a $200 million per year CEO, that's really impressive. And also goes back to that one of zero content, because not a lot of people are $200 million CEOs, and not a lot of them are actually posting on YouTube. So not only is it seem more like a one of zero content idea, but the title is just way better. And for the Alex Hormozi diet, same thing. It's just the Alex Hormozi diet. Who is Alex Hormozi? The 16-hour workday, 6-pack diet for business owners. That's a crazy title, but it's a good one. Now for the actionable steps that I think most people could take is to use something called the outlier theory. And all this is finding creators who have videos that performed above their average view count. And what this means is that when a video performs that high, it it means that title is something that's proven to already work. So all you have to do is find 10 to 20 creators in a similar space, sort by their most popular videos on YouTube, and then you can analyze how you can turn their titles into your own. And you can see some examples here. So like this Hormozi video got 1.4 million views, and on his channel, that's somewhat of an outlier, meaning that it's not an average video that he's getting. Like nowadays, he's usually pulling in like 200, 300, maybe 500K. But if you're seeing anything over a million, that's a pretty solid video for him. And you can see Iman Ghazi copies almost the same thing. So $100 million CEO reveals his secret to keeping A players. $100 million CEO explains how to build a brand in 2024. So essentially, it's the same packaging in the title, but it's a completely different video topic. And he used it so we can have a proven concept. And this is another one. So Charlie Morgan, how I made $17.4 million online. So you could just copy me. And this one from Jordan Welsh, how I made $1.3 million from one YouTube video, copy me. Once again, this is an outlier video from Charlie Morgan as it's performed way above his average view count. And Jordan's taking it just to maximize the amount of people that he reaches on his own channel. But having a great title is only the start to having great packaging, because if someone reads the title and then looks at your thumbnail and it doesn't actually validate what they're thinking of, then they're just going to keep scrolling. And this is where most creators go wrong about thumbnail, because once someone reads that title, then they're going to look at your thumbnail and decide if they're actually ready to click. And this is where most creators go completely wrong. They focus on getting clicks, but they don't care if those viewers actually stay. But Alex designs his thumbnails to validate exactly what they just clicked on. This way you build a long-term trust with your audience instead of just chasing one-time viewers.
Going from vague to clear. All right, so if I looked at all the stuff that we did in the past, if I said, what is the video on the left about? You'd probably be like, a rule of some sort that might have to do with money. Not sure. If I said, what's the video on the right, the yellow background video? If I were to describe it, I'd probably say a map or a blueprint or schematics of some sort that go from 0 to 1 million. Okay, well, guess what? The one on the right, it's exactly that.
And I think this is a great example that he uses. The 3-to-1 rule doesn't really make sense when you pair it with the title. And then the 0 to 1 million roadmap. As for the actual thumbnail concepts, a lot of people are doing something similar where it's just the outlier theory again. So the same thing I just explained with the titles, but they're doing it with the thumbnails as well. So you can see right here, Dan Martell, 624,000 views. Layla Hormozi, 278,000 views. I don't know if they necessarily piggybacked off each other, but you could tell it's something that's been rinsed through by other creators. Now the next one is going to be this girl. Her name is Nisha, I believe. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but she has a lot of videos that are like the 1% rule. There's 60, 20, 40 rule. And Alex Hormozi took that, just did a text-based title and called it the 1 year rule and got 1.1 million views. So you could see they're only 3 months apart. So he's leveraging that outlier concept, applying it to his own thumbnail. So it's the same process as titles, but they're finding already proven thumbnail concepts and just making sure that aligns with the title that they're putting it on. And to go one step deeper, like you could see this is the 1 year rule, and then it's brutally honest truths that give you an unfair advantage of life. And the way that this validates it is because you're assuming that within those brutally honest truths, he's going to say, oh, you need to follow the 1 year rule. This validates the packaging as a whole and leverages that outlier theory. And when you want to run through the checklist yourself, just see if does it portray the title properly? Can you understand what the video is about without even looking at the title? Will the viewer you want to target look at this and be interested? Those are basically the 3 things Hormozi covers. By now, your audience has seen your title, they've seen your thumbnail, and they're ready to watch your video. But you have about 8 seconds to prove you're worth listening to before they click away. And that's why Alex Hormozi uses his proof, promise, plan framework.
What is the promise for this person, right? What is the proof that I can deliver on that promise? And then what's the plan that I'm going to walk them through? And you want to get all that done in like 8 seconds.
Most people have this big glaring sign above their head before they can even turn on the volume of their brain, which is, why should I listen to you? And so I tend to lead with proof.
Now, how to actually replicate this for yourself? Something as simple as, I'm making a YouTube video about insert topic. I have big claim and I want to plan. I want you to help me create an introduction to the video using Alex Hormozi's proof, promise, plan framework. It should be less than 30 seconds when read aloud. So we're going to plug us in right into our last prompt. So I'm making a YouTube video about the Trojan horse method. I booked 100 calls in 9 months and I want to teach them how to use this 2-step strategy. I want you to help me create an introduction to the video using Alex Hormozi's proof, promise, plan framework. And you can see it spits out something super solid. Now, if you have no YouTube experience at all, you've never been on the platform, never posted a video, like this is going to be an introduction that is better than 99% of creators. Because while they're just guessing what works, you're actually following a proven system. And I personally think it can use a good amount of touching up. But like I said, like you'll just be way ahead of the competition. All I would do is just copy and paste that into a Google Doc. I'd read it aloud about 10 to maybe even 30 times just to ensure it's actually like a smooth flowing script. And then I'd add a few sentences here and there. But overall, just keeping it super short. Because nowadays creators like Hormozi, Dan Martell, Layla Hormozi, like all of those big business YouTubers are actually creating intros that are only 30 to maybe 45 seconds max, sometimes even closer to like 10 seconds. minutes. So I just make sure it's super simple and you're nailing down those 3 things. And now at this point, you have people clicking on the videos, you have them watching your introductions, but how do you turn those viewers into actual buyers? Well, Alex Hormozi uses a CTA framework that most people completely miss, because most creators either pitch right in the beginning of their video, leading to a steep drop off and people leaving the video, or they pitch it way too far into the video and not enough people are actually watching, so they're missing out on a bunch of people in that intro. So here's what Alex does instead.
We now do like 30-ish% through the video because you just get more people who are going to see it. I try and relate it to the content because then it kind of flows more naturally.
So as you can tell, he places his call to actions about 1/3 to 1/2 through the video. And to make this super actionable, as something as simple as scripting out the entire video and then uploading into ChatGPT. So in this example, we're going to give it a whole entire script that is finished from start to bottom. And then I'm just going to throw it this prompt. This way it creates me a call to action about halfway or 1/3 through the video. But know that this isn't just some random prompt. I'm telling it, like, I don't want it in the middle of a section so it actually flows. So after it's done kind of that first main pillar, it'll throw in a CTA and you'll see exactly what I mean here in a second. So it tells me exactly where to place it and where the most natural spot for the CTA is. And he says right after step 2, getting your leads, blah, 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 and before step 3. And you can tell this is pretty solid. But with even a big high quality list of leads, you'll still have the hard part, getting those people to actually apply and book time on your calendar. So you've won help from a team of experts, blah, blah, blah. So it creates a nice seamless transition and then pitches your offer as a way to help them. And once again, I always throw that back into Google Doc and I revise it as much as I can just to make sure it doesn't sound like ChatGPT and also to make sure it's actually hitting the right points that you want it to. But here's the thing, with all of that in mind, like, you can have the best titles, the best thumbnails, the best scripts, the best call to action strategy, but if you're not doing this last step, then you're not going to make it nearly as far as Alex Hormozi, and that is how often you post, because if you can't post consistently, then you're never going to make it with content. And here's how Alex approaches it.
So long form getting into YouTube, the first step I did was I hired a $3,000 to $5,000 a month agency, and they just got me to commit to doing 3 videos a week. They just trimmed it, which means you take out the oohs and ahs, put an intro and a thumbnail. The main objective of that first phase was just to get the basics down, forcing me to create content on a regular cadence.
Now for this one, I'm sorry to say, but there's no ChatGPT hacks here that you can just throw into, unleash a ridiculous amount of volume. That's what the front half was for, to help you post as much videos as possible and high quality ones. But essentially, Alex went through the phase of kind of like doubling down on volume and basically idea validation, just seeing what works, working with agencies, doubling down as he gets to that 200K to 1 million mark, and over 1 million subs, he's building an internal team. And if you're a B2B business owner, like something as simple as mapping out your goals and the main KPIs and just posting like lower effort videos just to get stuff out there and find what ideas resonate with your audience. This way you can kind of find like what fits your style and what they actually want to watch. And that's going to bring you to step 2. As the snowball starts to roll, you can start to take things up a notch. You can invest in, higher quality camera. You can invest in thumbnail designs. You can invest in like editing, and you could potentially even get like a fractional team, like an agency. And then step 3 is going to be continue to double down on buckets of content that are working, posting more volume and just finding out what works even better by doubling or tripling down on the same content idea. And at this point, you're going to start to improve the 20% rather than the 80%, meaning at the 80%, you're just improving ideas. You're focusing on the big core principles. And now you're going to be focusing on like specific title frameworks. You're going to be focusing on thumbnail design and pretty much all the little things of the process. So there you have Alex Hormozi's complete YouTube strategy broken down into 6 simple steps. Now, if you want to see how he used similar strategies to put a 7-figure call on the calendar for one of our clients with only 28 subscribers, watch this video and I'll see you over there.